right, hi everybody. Heather Dobson here, coming to you live from the GoDaddy live broadcast studio at Scottsdale, Arizona, GoDaddy headquarters. And I'm super excited today because we have another hangout with Joe Styler. This guy, I'm telling you, knows everything there is to know about domains, and I learn something every single time I sit in on an interview. Today, he's got Mike Rogers with him, and they're going to be talking about their domain buying service, which is, hey, I have this name for my business, but the domain is not available. Is it even possible for me to get that domain? These guys are going to tell you how the domain buying service at GoDaddy works and how you can get that dream domain even if somebody else has it. So Mike Rogers and Joe Styler, I am here monitoring the Google Hangout on air for your questions. This is also being live broadcast from my Facebook profile, and so there may be questions that are coming from that as well. And as usual, I'm the fly on the wall to be able to ask questions because I'm learning here too. And just to give you a heads up, this space that we're in right now is going to get a complete makeover and is going to be a completely legit live broadcast studio. We're ordering equipment right now. We're in the process of getting the bids and all of that kind of stuff, and I'm super excited about it because I'll be doing weekly live broadcasts, not only from here, but also from on location at various events that I'm attending. We're doing a live broadcast from Blake Irving's Facebook page on October 4th. You'll have to stay tuned so you can find out who that's with, but it's going to be really cool. So again, if you guys have any questions, just type it in the comment section and I'll interrupt these guys and ask them. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Joe.
Hey, we're real excited about being here today and happy that people can come and join us to watch. Like Heather said, we want to talk about the domain buy service. It's a great service that we have at GoDaddy to help you get a name if it's already taken. We're going to look through the aftermarket first and see if it's available for sale through a regular channel, such as a premium name or an auction. And if it's not available for sale there, we're going to offer you a domain buy service, which Mike and his team will follow up with the owner and see if they can get it for you. I'm really excited to have Mike join me today. Mike Rogers has been at GoDaddy for about 8 years. He's been all over the organization through hosting and lately with the aftermarket. He's been with us for the last couple of years, and he's really been a valuable member of the team and been able to help us to get the domain buy service and take it to the next level, which is great for everybody who uses the service and also for our brokers that work underneath him. So we're real excited to have him. He is also the GoDaddy president of the African Americans in Tech, which is one of our groups that we have here. So he's got a pretty full schedule, so it's great of him to be able to come out and spend some time to help people understand what the domain buy service is and how to use that. So I'll turn it over to him to say a couple words, and then we'll get started with some questions that I have for him.
Thanks. So yeah, like Joe said, only been in aftermarket for about 2 years. Really enjoying it, really enjoying growing the team and getting to know people like Joe and especially our AFTRANET group and all the guys on domain buy service. We've done some pretty good things, and we got some good things coming, so I'm excited for it.
So first, let's start at a really high level. What is the domain buy service, and kind of how does that work?
All right. Well, domain buy service is basically, like you guys said, we reach out and try to acquire domains for our clients. Our clients will range from small startup businesses to small, medium, large, to household name companies. If they think a domain is going to add value to their business or project, and it's not available in any secondary marketplace or any marketplace, then they'll reach out to us and we try to acquire the domain name from them.
So I want to buy a name for my business, and I want to sell couches online. So I try and get couchesonline.com, but it's taken. That's something I would call you up and say, hey, I want to buy this name. Can you help me?
Exactly. That's something that you can get our service from a site. You can give us a call. What we'll do is we'll take your request. We'll kind of consult you on why you want the domain name, what value it's going to bring to your company or project. We'll consult on the offer range that you want to be in, and we'll put together a little plan on how we're going to attack and get in touch with the current owner and try to negotiate a sale for you.
We mentioned before that you have a team of people that have been there for a various amount of time. When we're getting started with this, can you tell me a little bit more about the team that would be actually doing the calling and trying to get the names for people?
Sure. About maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the team was around 7 people. At this point, we've grown to about 10 people, and the experience level and the amount of time they've been with us is kind of wide. The newest member of the team has been there for about a year and a half, 2 years, and it goes all the way up to our most tenured member that's been there for about 9, 10, 11 years. So the experience level varies, but for people that have been around for 10, 11 years, that experience trickles down to everyone on the team.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So they didn't just start in the domain buy service like you didn't just start there, right? So they've had other domain experience before coming in for the last year and a half. So
Right.
Most of the people that are there are veterans in the domain industry in some way, shape, or form already.
Yeah, exactly. Actually interesting the amount of differences in backgrounds that the people have on the team. Like myself, I came from a tech background. Within the hosting org, we have some people that were in just outbound sales. We have some people that were in leadership within our call centers. So it's a wide range of perspectives, and being able to sit 2 feet away from each other and kind of talk about how they're going to go about acquiring a domain name, it adds a lot of value to our team.
What do you think is one of the key things that makes the team so good? I know that they have a lot on their plate. They have to cold call people. In some cases, they're going to have to negotiate when they get somebody on the phone. They have to educate people around the current market value price. If somebody calls up, I want to get couches online, and I think it's worth $50, they're going to have to explain to me that the name's probably worth more than $50 and kind of bring me up to budget. So what do you think are some of the key things that they bring to the table, and some of the things that you've noticed as one of their key assets?
Well, in terms of consulting our clients, so our client's going to be the buyer, right? They're the person that reached out and got our service. So in terms of consulting and kind of coaching the buyer, it's the most important thing is all of these guys on the team have come up through GoDaddy. So we have that GoDaddy culture of we want to help the customer. We want to do whatever it takes to make sure that our client gets value out of what they're spending and what they're doing. And we make decisions based off of how we learn to work at GoDaddy, which is client first. The other aspect of that is, like I said, there's a lot of experience on the team. So when we're talking to people, we can really explain the why behind the value, or the why behind the domain, or the why behind, like you said, with couches. You want couches, couches online or couches.com. We're able to kind of put it in words why you probably want it, whereas you might not be able to put it into clear words. On that, when we're reaching out to the domain owner side of things, it's just by being GoDaddy and reaching out from Mike at GoDaddy.com versus Mike at whatever.com, it adds a lot more legitimacy. We get a lot more responses just because of the name, because people are confident in our services and know that we're going to do the right things. It helps us significantly.
I think that's a key point. I know when I call people up, if I have to try and get a name from them, still at this point, still knowing from GoDaddy makes a big difference. There's brand recognition. People know who we are, which is important because they know that they can trust us. When I say, hey, I have somebody who wants to pay $10,000 for your domain name, they know that it's real, that the money's going to be there at the end of the day. That I'm calling from someplace that's reputable. But I think that goes really far. If I called, from my personal cell phone and said, hey, this is a guy named Joe, and I want to pay $10,000 for your name, they might not believe that my call is real, or they might not believe I have the money. So I think that really helps. It helps you to get through. I think some of the people that first answer the phone, if you're trying to get to the decision maker too, and you're trying to get to somebody, and they have a secretary or they have a big office, and it's really hard to get in touch with that decision maker. Calling from GoDaddy makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a little bit about some calls that you may have made, or calls on the team where you were able to get a name for somebody that they weren't able to get themselves.
There's been a lot of times where we've been able to acquire a domain name that someone's been trying to acquire for a significant amount of time. We have this thing where we have kudos, so we get kudos emails where a customer or client will email and want to tell how great the agent or broker was that was working on their request. I'm trying to think of one in particular. was one earlier this year where it was a restaurant chain had reached out. I can't really, because one of the features of domain buy services, we keep the identity of our client kind of secret, confidential. Can't tell you exactly who it is, but it was a restaurant chain that reached out. They've been trying to acquire this domain name for, I want to say 13 years, or it was over a decade. And within, I want to say 3 to 4 weeks, we were able to acquire the domain name for them and get it into their possession. The person that we were working with wasn't an executive for the company, but she sent an email follow-up, which was a kudos, and just let us know how much it means to their company to finally have this domain name. She was so excited, and the executives were so excited to change their email addresses over to the domain name that we acquired. So that's really good to see. That's kind of why we do it.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I know I've seen a lot of stories like that. I've seen us get names that are used in big commercials that I've seen, national commercials and other advertising. And I know there's been movie stars or professional athletes that we've helped get names for. Is there anything, that we can talk about as far as some of the bigger sales that we've done?
I mean, I wish there was. I wish I could, but I really can't.
So you got some secrets, is what you're saying.
I do.
Like we need to keep you around because you've got some secrets.
I do.
Yeah.
No, what I can say is they're household names. Some of the clients that we worked with are household names. So if I said them, you definitely recognize them. But at the same time, where those will be 7-figure sales, we also deal with $250 sales, $300 sales. So anywhere in the spectrum is those are the clients that we kind of work with. So it's all over the place.
Yeah. So, and that's what I want to get across to our viewers today is that the domain buying service is not just for people who have 7 figures or even 5 figures or maybe even 4 figures. But it's, hey, you know what? I've decided that I want to purchase my name. Luckily, I own heatherdobson.com. And if you don't own your own name as a domain name, I suggest you get on that right away. I even buy domain names of people's kids to give to them.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So that, because I mean, this you never know what you want to do, and some of us are fortunate. I have a somewhat of a unique spelling of my last name, so it was pretty easy for me to get. But I always recommend to people that they should own their own name. But not everybody has $10,000 to spend. But what you guys are saying is that, hey, I really want heatherdobson.com, even though I have it. I can come to a domain buying service. Can you walk me through what that process looks like?
Sure.
Am I a GoDaddy customer already? Or
you don't have to be a GoDaddy customer already.
Okay, great.
You
don't have to be a
client.
GoDaddy customer.
More often than not, what people will do is they'll have an idea. They'll have an idea for a project or a business, and they'll go to GoDaddy.com. They'll search for their domain name, and it won't be available.
Yeah.
Once a domain name isn't available, you'll have a few different options. One of them is domain buy service. So what they'll do is they'll purchase our service. We immediately get the request that, hey, this customer wants this domain. And then we start the consulting phase, right? So we will get what we call a budget range. So we'll get kind of the budget or the spend they want to spend on the domain name. Sometimes the budgets are low for the domain name. So say someone wants shoes.com and they don't really understand the value that a single that one word domain has. That we'll have to reach out and call them and say, hey, listen, this domain is probably going to fall within upwards of 7 figures. So let's talk about the value it's going to bring to you. So the most important thing we do at that point is ask questions, right? So what are you doing with the domain name? What's the domain name going to do for you? Is it what kind of return is this domain name going to provide you? That way, they understand the value it's going to bring to them, and we can kind of talk to them about, well, all right, since it's going to bring this value, your budget range is probably around here, so that's not going to get shoes.com. But let's look at these other options.
I love that. So I want shoes.com, and my budget is $5,000. Not going to happen, right? So then your agents will say, well, tell me what you want to do. Let's look at some other options, and let's see where that fits in your budget. Absolutely. So I have a couple questions here. Ramon Darling, hi Ramon, wants to know, do you guys negotiate on behalf of the buyer, or is this like a buying selling agent who doesn't really choose a side?
The buyer is our client.
Okay,
So we negotiate on behalf
that's
of the
great.
buyer.
So you're working on the behalf of the buyer.
Mhm.
And then what about, I know that I don't have to be an existing GoDaddy customer in order to use the domain buying service,
Mhm.
but are you only negotiating to buy existing GoDaddy domains, or does it matter where the domain exists?
The domain can be anywhere.
Okay.
We'll try to reach out to the owner and negotiate that sale.
Okay, awesome. So, and we've got another, Ramon Ray is on here too, who says he's used domain buying and it works really well. And he says GoDaddy is legit. So thanks for that, Ramon Ray. Appreciate that. So I know I just jumped in there with those questions, but I wanted to really clarify that, that we're not trying to eliminate people here based on budget. Like you can come in and start with any type of budget and in any domain. And it sounds like your agents then help people create the realistic expectations of, I'm not going to buy $1 million home for $200,000, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I look at it in that same capacity.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at our customer base, for the most part, the requests are going to come in from the startups, the small, and the medium businesses. So it's those major 7-figure deals are few and far between. It's for the meat of it. It's the small ones.
Okay, great. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, Joe.
No, I think that there's many times where we're able to talk to people. I remember a conversation I had. Sometimes I'll jump on the phone and help people out to get a name. And I talked with a woman who had $5,000 and she wanted to buy fitness.com. Fitness.com is an excellent name. You're not going to get that for anywhere near $5,000. So I asked her a bunch of questions and found out what she was doing with her business. And we were able to get her a name that worked perfectly for her. It was short, it was memorable, it helped her with her new fitness business, and we got it for $2,000, and she was ecstatic. So, it just, it really made the difference for her just to call and use our service. And that brings up a couple points, which I think are really important. We're going to get to, what it costs and ask you a little bit, but I think that more often than not, the negotiation skill that his team brings to the table is going to be able to save you more money than you would be able to on your own. So using that is, I think it's a really cost-effective option, and it also is really good to save time. To negotiate for a domain name, to first of all try and track down the owner, which isn't always very easy, takes a lot of time, and then to get in there and try and negotiate a deal for it, even to get through the decision maker sometimes is hard, and then to negotiate once you have somebody on the line, that also takes a lot of your time. So I think it's very good to be able to just kind of pass that off, and it also kind of takes the emotion out of it, so that you're not involved firsthand and somebody coming back and saying they want $100,000 for a name that you have $1,000 for and getting upset. Have somebody that is an expert in the area to be able to go in there and negotiate and kind of set that expectation to both you and the seller and see what they can do.
Yeah, I love that. So this is going to be just a little bit off topic, but it's something that comes up a lot. And especially when I announced that I was coming to work at GoDaddy, then people started asking a lot of questions about GoDaddy. And so something that I know that happens, that comes in from the support team and people that have asked me questions too, if I go to GoDaddy.com and search for a domain that I want to buy, then does GoDaddy track that and then raise the price of that if I decide I want to come back and buy it later? You've heard this question before, right? You've heard this, or the accusation. It's more of an accusation, you guys, than a question.
It's not something that we would ever do. We don't track names and either register them ourselves or tip anybody else off or anything of that nature. Just business sense wise, it makes absolutely no sense for us to do that. If it were to be true, that we did that, nobody would want to use us as a business, right?
Right.
So that makes no sense for us to even attempt to do. So that we in no way, shape, or form have ever done that or will do that.
Okay, so did you guys get that? You can safely go on GoDaddy.com and search your domains, and nobody's hiking the price up on it. Nobody's holding it in reserve or paying attention to it, saying, oh, 5 people have searched this domain this week. Not in that capacity.
But it is often the case that people will think of the same idea at the same time. And I know that sounds a little far-fetched. There's a book that actually covers this about startups, and one of the chapters in the book, which I don't remember the book's name off the top of my head, is about how since there's a lot of the same media that goes around and a lot of the same things that people see or watch or hear or friends talking about things, they'll start to come up with similar ideas all around the same time. And so when they talk about, the key point in that is, if you're going to launch a startup, know that there's probably other people that are trying to launch that same startup at the same time as you are. And I find that to be similar with domain names. People might come up with a similar idea at the same time, and then they think, oh, well, obviously nobody else would think about this. It came in my head. But I think more often than not, it's something that happens where you go to think about registering a name that isn't taken, and somebody else is thinking about the name at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So we all think we're precious, unique little snowflakes.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. If you're watching something on the news, or you see something in your Facebook feed, or something that's going on in the environment that stimulates an idea from you, there's the potential that it stimulated the idea for somebody else too. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So I love that this is, as we're focusing really on the freelancers and the entrepreneurs and the small solopreneurs, we call them, one person businesses, that this is really attainable by everyone, as long as you're realistic about the domain that you're going to buy. And I love that you're offering this. It's almost like counseling, right? Okay, let's set the realistic expectation of the domain that you want to purchase. And I love your example of the fitness.com and how you were able to shape that to really represent her brand, because a domain name is reflective of your brand, right? I mean, it's really critical. How many of us have had this idea, or maybe we've worked with people who already have an existing brand, but they don't have their domain, and then you go to search that domain and it's already taken, and it's taken by something that is maybe not even related to what their business is. So this is a great service that I think not a lot of people know that GoDaddy offers.
There's also a large group of investors that purchase names. They take a risk and they buy a bunch of names that they think are going to be important in the future. They hold on to those. There's companies that do that as well, large holding companies and other things. And I think that it's important to have an advocate that deals with them on a regular basis, that can come in and say, hey, we'd like to purchase this name. And it's not just you off the street. It's somebody that they might do regular business with, and they understand and know and can get in touch with, and they're able to negotiate for you in the best possible way, not only quickly, but at a good price. So I think that also helps the connections that you'd have in the industry.
Right. If you think of one of the most tenured guys on the team, 10 years, think of how many requests that have come in and that he's had to reach out to. Any new request that comes in, more oftentimes than not, he will require a domain name. So, like we said earlier, is that getting in the door, getting to the right person is really quick for us at this point.
Yeah. So you're leveraging those existing relationships that you guys have that someone like me wouldn't have. As a business owner, I don't have those relationships.
Correct.
Yeah. That's a very powerful service. Yeah.
And we also have millions of names on our aftermarket. So if the name's listed on our aftermarket, we're not going to guide you to the domain buy service. We're just going to say, hey, it's for sale. Just go buy it.
So let's talk about that. Let's explain what aftermarket means very specifically in this case.
Basically, it means any name that's taken. When we talk about aftermarket in our sense, where we just said, we have names listed on the aftermarket, that would be names that are taken and then actively listed for sale. Okay. So on our auctions or as a premium name, we put them up for sale for customers. So if the name is not actively listed for sale, then the domain buy service would step in and say, hey, we'd like to purchase this name. We notice that you have it. Right? So I don't want to sell it. It's Coke.com and I'm Coca-Cola. I'm sorry, I'm not going to sell that name. I don't care how much you want to give me. Name's not for sale. Well, we have millions of other names that Mike's team can then go look at and say, hey, we have similar names that might really help your business or that you could build a brand on, and here's some examples that are in your budget. So they're able to really, guide people to be able to find something so they can walk away with a name that they're really happy with at the end of the day, and they can take it and go start their business, which is what we want them to do.
Yeah, even if we get a hard no from a domain owner, it's not a dead end for us or our client. We always try to find a different option for them or something that fits what they're trying to do.
Okay. So is there somewhere that I can go and look at the aftermarket, the stuff that you have on the aftermarket right now?
Yeah, the easiest way is if you go to auctions.godaddy.com, you can see our auction site. That lists everything.
Domains are listed by people like me who have a problem and consistently always buy domains because I come up with these great ideas. And then it comes time to renew and I go, maybe I don't want to renew, but maybe I want to sell it. So instead of letting it expire, which is one option, I can come to your team and say, hey, there might be some interest in this. I want to list this for sale.
Right.
Is that an accurate description?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's an option. I know that there are other people out there like me who, you know, maybe after happy hour go buy a couple of domains because you've had all these great ideas. And then when it comes time to, hey, I want to renew, maybe instead of just letting it pass, consider listing it in the aftermarket because you might make a little bit of cash off of it. I mean, even if you spent $15 on the domain, or maybe you got it on sale and it was $2.99 or $1.99, maybe you sell it. Is there a minimum amount that you sell on the aftermarket for?
Yeah. Most of the names that are listed by customers have to be at $20 as a minimum price.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic.
But we have some expiring names that can go for as little as $5.
Yeah. Okay. So auctions at auctions.godaddy.com, and you can go see what domains are available in the aftermarket right now. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So I have another question. This sounds like a great service for me. So we go to GoDaddy. What's it going to cost? What is it going to cost me as far as how much money and what kind of time do I need to put into it?
All right. So the service itself is going to cost $69.99, and then a 20% commission on the sale price.
Okay.
Really, what that gets you is kind of everything that we've been talking about. First and foremost, it's going to get you a dedicated person that's going to reach out and try to acquire the domain name. It's going to take that. I mean, that's what acquiring domain names. That's what we do all day. Businesses. So what we're doing is taking that item off your plate. So taking that task away from you, and say, hey, this is what we do it well. So we'll check in with you. We'll let you know how it goes, but let us handle this side for you. So we're saving you some time, saving you some effort and some headache. And then, our experience, the negotiations. One thing that's really cool that we have the benefit of is our senior executive team is super helpful when we try to reach out to people. We have a couple different departments that just deal with people that are domain investors or that have large portfolios. So we have not only connections that we've made just by doing the claims or doing the requests. We have the internal network that we work with daily that we sit 10 feet away from. So we'll look at a domain name, we'll know the owner, and we'll know what agent has worked with that owner in the past, and we can walk right over and say, hey, I got for on this domain name. Let's try to get this deal done. So it speeds up the process for us and the client, and most times we end up with a win.
Yeah, I love that. So that's $69.99. And you get the benefit of these guys' experience if this is what they do all day long, and then leveraging those relationships, the existing relationships that they have, especially with domain investors, and the support from the GoDaddy team here. Seems like a no-brainer to me if there's a domain that I am dead set on because it ties so closely into my business or my idea. I think that's an extremely reasonable price. And I'll tell you a secret. Before we started this, I had no idea how much the cost was, so I was waiting along with you guys to see how much that is. And I think $69.99 is great. It's an investment in having somebody represent your best interest. Not only that, but then also to be able to help you find the right domain if that domain that you're looking for is not in your budget.
Right.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
No, it's a $69.99. There's 20% commission on the sale price. Now, the service itself is 30 days long.
Okay.
So the service is a $69.99, and that gets you the dedicated agent for 30 days.
Okay.
So I just wanted to.
Yeah, $69.99 for an agent for 30 days. I think it's worth it if it's something that you're dead set on. I have a question here that's actually about the aftermarket stuff. If they wanted to sell, this is from Carrie over at Brandscape. Hi, Carrie. If they wanted to sell on the aftermarket, how do they start that process? What does that look like?
It's fairly easy. If you go to auctions.godaddy.com, you can sign up for an account there, and you can just list your names right from there. There's a button that says Sell Names towards the bottom. It's Buy or Sell. And you can just click Sell, and you can list your names for sale. And
do they have to be GoDaddy domains to sell on that auction?
No, they can list any type of name.
So you can list, doesn't matter. See, we're finding a theme here. It doesn't matter where your domain is registered or where it's hosted or anything. GoDaddy can help you out. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for that question, Carrie. All right.
I think the time savings that you get from hiring somebody is really important. And also, there's a couple things I wanted to point out. If it's 30 days, but there's an active negotiation, you're going back and forth, and you're getting, you're going to make a deal. Something's going to happen. It's not, hey, we're at $1 million and we're at $1,000 and this is never going to happen. But we're at 10,000 and 15,000. Let's make this meet. We'll just keep it open. If there's active conversations going, we'll keep working on it until we get a deal to happen. It's not, hey, 30 days is up, sorry, you're done. But we'll work on it actively for 30 days regardless. But if there's some kind of action around there that we really feel like we can close a deal, we'll keep it open.
And even more than that, if we haven't been able to get that negotiation started, we haven't been able to get that conversation started, and that 30-day mark comes up, and we close everything out. If later on, a month later, 2 months later, that domain owner actually responds to us and gets back to us, it's something that we'll reopen, revisit, and reach out to to our client and say, hey, we finally got in touch with this guy. Do you still want we still have interest in the name? So if it's no response and they kind of get back to us later, we'll still work it.
And that brings up an important point too that I think is something that's key that we should bring up. It's not always easy to find out who owns the name. A lot of times people would say, well, you can look on the Whois, which is a public directory, kind of like the white pages for your phone number, where you can go and say, all right, well, this is the person who owns the name. That information isn't always accurate, even though it should be. There's oftentimes a privacy that you can put on that, kind of like being unlisted in the white pages. There's a lot of different things that come up. It might just be a company name that's listed that's offshore, and it doesn't have an easy way to get in touch with them. So even though there's a public directory, there's a lot of ways that people can use privacy or some other service or means to kind of make it harder for them to get in touch with you. So one of the things that we have as an advantage through Domain Buy Service is that we've been doing this for so long. We recognize a lot of the people that are behind those names from various means, or we have connections in the industry where we're able to, more often than not, get your offer in front of the person who actually owns the name, regardless of what's on the Whois. So we've been doing this for a long time. We have a lot of tools and we have a lot of connections. So if you have a name that you're interested in, more often than not, we're going to be able to present your offer to the person who owns it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because there have been times where I'm just curious about who owns a domain name, because maybe it is something that I'm in some capacity, and when I go check Whois, I can't always tell who owns that, because you are able to create privacy settings on your domain names. If you don't know that, that's something important that you might want to take into consideration. That's an additional charge. For most registrars and most hosting companies, it's an additional charge, and it's totally worth it. And while I'm talking about that, this is a little off topic, but I want to address this, is that when you purchase a domain and you don't use the privacy settings, that means that your name, your address, and your phone number is visible on this Whois database. So that's why you start getting junk mail and maybe phone calls from these other companies who say, hey, you registered this domain, do you want these services from us? It's not that that registrar or that hosting company is selling your information, is that you've put your information out there without protecting it.
Right.
So that's just one basic reason why domain privacy is an important step in purchasing your domain. Yeah, so I love the fact that if there's something that I want, but I don't know who owns it, then I can reach out to you guys, and you guys can probably look at something. I'm going to start calling you guys up and say, who owns this domain? Because I want to know. You're able to look at something and even probably just look at the name servers in some cases, and be able to identify where that domain, where it sits right now.
Yeah, there's different tricks we have or tools we can use or people that we know to try and identify who's really behind the name and try and get to them.
Yeah, I love that. So, Joe, have you used this yourself? I know you purchase a lot of domains, and you're very active in using this as a part of your own business outside of GoDaddy, correct?
Yeah, I don't purchase anything through GoDaddy because I don't want to have any kind of conflict of interest. I can see all the tools behind the scenes, so I can kind of see what's going on with the negotiations, and I don't want to have that happen. However, if I wasn't able to do that as a non-GoDaddy customer, I would definitely use it, and it's something that I recommend to people often because I think it's such a great service. I mean, not only do they have the the team that are really experts. I mean, the team. I wish we could bring them all here so they can kind of talk about things, but they've been doing this for a long time, so they're experts in the industry. They're able to really get a good deal for people, and I think that more often than not as well, their negotiation tactics are able to save people a lot more money than they spend on the service. They're all trained in negotiation. They all know their domains very well. So I think that is a big help, and it takes things off your plate. Like you said, if you're running a business like I am, to try and do 30 things and balance them all at the same time, that's hard. So if you can have, for $70 to have this taken off your plate, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the plight of small businesses, especially when it comes to freelancers and solopreneurs, like truly small businesses. You've got 2 or 3 people, and it's you, your family. You are focusing on what you're passionate about and what you do really well. And I'm going to guess you're probably not that passionate about buying domains because you're busy building your business. So offloading that, outsourcing that to a team like this who has all the connections in the world makes complete sense to me. Yeah, I love it. Carrie says we should offer umbrella privacy for all domains. I wish it was that simple, but it's not. And every hosting company and every registrar is a little bit different, but it is an important step that it's your responsibility to protect the privacy of your domain. Yeah, absolutely. Great feedback, though, Carrie. I love it. All right, what else, guys? We covered all the process.
Mike.
Yeah. Okay. So the process is simple. I find a domain that somebody else that's taken. And then I contact the domain buy services. I go to GoDaddy.com. Do I need a GoDaddy account? I know I don't have to be a customer, but I can just set up a GoDaddy account, or do I just call you guys first?
You set up. When you would call in, into support, our call center. They would get you right over to us.
Okay.
Or you can just go through the front of site and purchase that way.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions here. So no other questions at the moment. All right, Joe, any closing comments here?
No, just really, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section, either here or when we archive this to YouTube in a little bit. There'll be a link on the page for you to be able to go watch on YouTube. So if you either post it on this Google page or YouTube, we'll be sure to follow up and give you an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And one quick question here from Carrie. Can we go in and add privacy, or is it out there so no-go? So I'm going to answer this, and they're going to tell me if I'm right or wrong. You can add domain privacy at any time. You don't have to add the privacy at the moment that you buy the domain. You can go in, add privacy. Now, how does that get updated then in the databases?
It's updated almost instantaneously. However, if your information was ever public at any point in time, there are services that you can use. They're paid services, and you can go mine the who is, so you can go find out. If you bought a name and then 3 minutes later you put privacy on, there's a good chance that people can find out that information. So if you really wanted to remain private, you need to buy privacy at the time that you purchase your name. Otherwise, guys like us are going to go in there and pay for the service and go find out, was this ever without privacy, which is one of the ways that we're able to go and find contact information that you might not be able to yourself.
Right. Okay, fantastic. All right, we'll just do one quick double check and see if there are any more questions. We had some great questions today. I appreciate everybody's interaction, both on our Google Hangout and on my Facebook Live over here. Appreciate having you guys here. Mike, you did a great job.
Thank you.
I think you're a superstar. Joe, as always, you're fantastic, full of information. I appreciate it. We will be scheduling more live broadcasts with Joe as we're working to build out what the content calendar looks like for live broadcasts. We'll be covering all kinds of topics. We'll be sharing customer stories, a lot of educational topics that are not just GoDaddy services, by the way. We're also going to be talking about how you build your small business and maybe how you use social media or how you use digital selling tactics. There's all different types of things that we can and will be covering. And if you have any suggestions, things that you would like to see us do, put it in the comments here or send me a tweet at heatherdobson.com. We'll be happy to shape it to what you guys want. So with that, we're going to wrap up from here in Scottsdale. For Joe and Mike and myself, thank you so much. I love the questions and the participation today. You guys, have a great afternoon.
Thank
See
you.
you guys later.